Hola. Welcome to the Daily with Akeisha. It's episode 13. So excited to be in this new space. The lighting, I must say, if you're on YouTube, is atrocious. Oh my gosh. This place, I'll just give you a quick little scanneroo here. You can see it's kind of nice. There's patio. It's dark. We just got here a little while ago, but we have its own little enclosed pool, and all the cabins kind of surround it. It's made to look like a cenote. Um, I think it's really great, and they use UV filters and water ionizers to clean the water as it recycles through. So super great on the environment. I love that. So it's episode 23, The Daily with Akeisha. Thanks so much for joining, everybody. If you're new to this channel, if you're new to me, hi, welcome. If you are returning, hello again. It's so great to have you on. I'm a Canadian girl, moved to Mexico with my husband in September of last year, and we are creating our life abroad. I haven't gone out really publicly as to all the reasons why we chose to leave Canada in the fashion that we did, in the time frame we did, and the choices. I feel like that's starting to become a little bit more easier for me to talk about. So I hope you look forward to those episodes. But moving to Mexico to build our life abroad, to at least start here, it was a yes to a bigger question for me personally, and that was to kind of actually take steps to building a life that I once dreamt about. I once, journaled about. I had before I threw them out. I had written down in multiple pages of multiple journals, traveling and living abroad, having a abundant, successful online business, and creating a future that is taking us from place to place in the world. And now I'm living that. Interestingly enough, I don't even see this trip that we're on the East Coast. We spent the last few days in Cancun seeing friends, and we decided to kind of ditch our other Airbnb because it was crap, and come out to Tulum the last 2 nights. I don't even really see this as a vacation where I completely unplug. I'm still, showing up every day on Instagram, sharing the business, promoting the products, promoting the business side, being still connected, because I understand that my life, no matter where I go, I'm going to be able to create an income, and that's the lifestyle that I want. So yeah, we're doing it. We've been in Cancun for the last few days. You can catch up on the other conversations about my thoughts and what we've been up to. But today, it's my mind just got blown. Every single moment of the day, I just had to release this croak and die. Sorry, I'm going to pause because, I think I came back. I might have cut out there on YouTube. The internet was just a little sketch all of a sudden. Okay, sorry. I had to release this control of knowing the answers, because I might not ever get them, and I might have to die. And then I'll be, given the answers to what's life, how long have we been here, who was here before us, what were they like, were they happy, were they just as, effed up as we have gotten these days, were they civil to each other, or did they, what did they have, how did they make the things that they made? Because this was coming up because we went to Chichen Itza. It's the biggest archaeological site, I believe, in Mexico, with all of its ruins, and the site is massive. And we even forgot to go down one way, so we didn't even get to see the observatories. It was huge and so hot, and you look at these ruins and you're like, how, like everyone else, how the F did they build these? So much rock, so much concrete, just piled up and beautifully, symmetrical and lined up. And, there was a lot of ingenuity in it. And were the people happy? What was daily life like on these grounds? How did they know to do certain things? All these age-old questions. And were they, this is the question that comes up in my head, is were they like human the way that we are human today? Or were they different? Where did they learn their skills? Did they come from a different, galaxy and find life here? And then, there's this theory of Earth being a university, quote unquote, that you become part of the citizens of the galaxy once you progress to a certain stage. That's all I know on that theory. And did that happen to them? Because they're very connected to the galaxy and the stars. And there is one temple that directly, lines up the corridors to I believe it's the summer solstice, which, like, why was that so important to them? How did they become it? Were people enslaved to build these temples? Were people really happy to build them? How big was the communities? What was their life like? All these little things that are so big to me were starting to come up as we were walking the grounds. And I was like, why isn't anything else here? It's just these. Like, what's under my feet? Why is there no, bathroom areas or kitchen areas, or like where they would, have the babies? Like, I don't know, just like really weird things. And the sheer amount of ruins that are in Mexico and South America and are just still covered by jungle and people on people's properties and places where we just can't get access to because it's so all of this is super, super interesting to my brain and also completely overwhelming at the same time. And then we went to a cenote, which was kind of in our ticket. I do not recommend the cenote if it's like your first one. It is just full tourist. But it's this massive, like, straight down a hole in the ground, and then there's water, and there's a circular opening of just like foliage and trees and vines everywhere. It's absolutely breathtaking in that moment, but it's so packed with people, and you kind of jump in, you kind of swim around. It's not like the cenote we went to before where you could like see fish because it's super, super deep and super dark. That you can't like see shit. You got to be, have a light and scuba gear on to even see and explore the cave. But it is a cave essentially. And it was breathtaking though. At the same time, it's like, who was utilizing this when we weren't here? Like, how did we stumble upon this? How did this site even become to be a massive tourist site? I much prefer the cenotes where you get to like see the fish and they're clear and they're kind of more open and you gotta get to explore everything. Those are really beautiful. Like the one we went to the other day was by far, it was my only cenote at the time and it was breathtaking. And I know you can get some like more underground cave type cenotes, which, maybe we'll find one tomorrow. I don't know what our tomorrow has in store for us, but my mind was just like in this total state of, I am such a small speck in the world. And there was this whole life. And maybe I lived those lives. Maybe I didn't. Maybe I was part of a Mayan society at one point, multiple times over. Who knows? But what is really interesting, and Clayton was he's outside talking about this right now, but um, in the ruins, all the guides were doing this like clapping, and you could hear clapping coming from everywhere, but you couldn't hear people talking. And then if they would clap at a certain part, it would sound like a bird chirping at the top of the big massive ruin. And they use different octaves to communicate apparently in like the big stadium. So you could hear the clapping, but you couldn't necessarily hear the voices. I found that fascinating. Like, what the heck? I can't hear you talk, but you clap and I hear you clearly and it like echoes. Like, why does a clap make an echoing sound, but you yelling doesn't? I don't know. Anyways, my mind was just like, you are a small speck. You have lived thousands of lives. Did you live this life? I didn't get like an energy sense. I don't really, it was just so like, oh my God, like I just am so insignificant in this moment. And then we listened to a Joe Rogan podcast with this physician who helps with like healing people using medicinal medicines, so like mushrooms, and also really breaking the mainstream idea of what ADHD is, and really linking things down to emotions, trapped emotions, and how we were raised as children, and how like the culture of the Western culture of like not picking up kids, not like addressing when they're crying, like kind of like we've gone away from um, meeting our children's needs, and then they have all these problems in the as they grow up in the school system, and not putting the blame on the parents, but really putting the shining the light on like, well, this is how you're told to parent, but if you look back and see how your child is and how your adults are, and then look at how you parent them, it's like a direct correlation. And I do highly encourage you, if you're not a parent, because I'm not and Clayton isn't, but our minds were just constantly blown, because this is all the stuff that we've come to learn about healing our emotions and healing our traumas, and that everything is just it's a moment we had when we were very, very little that gets like solidified. If I grew up, so an example of this, and then hopefully I can find that podcast and I'll link it up in the description. But I grew up in an environment where anger, I couldn't express my anger, my full spectrum of emotions. They were not allowed to be expressed in a safe manner, and I saw a very volatile expression when I was very, very young. So then you kind of like close in, kind of detach. The world's a little bit unsafe. You aren't worth the emotions that you go through. You need to be kind of like this solidness. You can't show too much, that's weak. That's how it's manifested in my life because of the environment that I grew up with. And like, you talk to really anybody, and we all have these kind of like similar stories. Minus the people that grew up in like homes that were like so loving and so encouraging, and like the world was like, it was crappy, but like you were safe here and you could like talk it out and it'd be okay, and you have like confidence in yourself and your worth. And I'm working now to get to there. And so my brain was also just like blown again, in the sense of like realizations of almost a hyper awareness of all the things that I am going to require to do with myself to move my life, my business, my goals, to actually achieve all the things that I want in life. There's so many things that I need to heal, and it can become overwhelming. So I don't know if you guys sometimes feel the same way. I'm so aware of all these little things that it can become like, I don't know where to start, or extremely frustrating when I'm not getting something. And I've talked about vulnerability before, and how vulnerability in me is kind of like oil and water. I'm trying to be less of that. I'm trying to become more of a coconut oil so I can mix with other oils nicely. But there's things just like vibrationally, even just like, I'm worth the job that I have. I am worth the job that I've decided to go for in the industry that I am in. And there's nothing wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with the industry. I am, at the end of the day, always problem solving and helping people. And I have this like want and desire to succeed and to accomplish all the things that I have set out for me, knowing that what I have set out for me isn't even like astronaut. Like, I'm not trying to go to the moon, right? I'm not, trying to be a billionaire right now. Anyways, I'm really like, my goals are very attainable, and they are very much attainable for me, let alone anyone else. Like, really, really, people that have come from less have attained way more. And so I, also caught in this comparison, and being vulnerable with that, and having grace with that, and understanding, it all boils down to healing my own self-worth and my own value, and seeing my own, well, actually not relating out what happens in that process doesn't reflect anything less of who I am. kind of hard to swallow that one sometimes. Constantly practicing, releasing, and destroying, uncreating, and using those access tools that I have to really shift the energy of not attaching what I'm doing and the process I'm going through onto the worth and the value and the person I am. You know, it's so interesting because it really should be so easy. Like, you're not hurting anyone, you're not killing anyone, you know, big wins right there. But it sometimes is very difficult, especially when you've set out some tasks and they aren't coming to fruition the way that you would hope. So, really, really practicing discerning and creating those expectations. And again, I've said this before, and I honestly think I just have to say it again because this whole night of like, you're such a small speck in the grand scheme of history, yet your own life is so worth the discovery and the continuation and the exploration and the connection. Like, I would have not been born and I would not have done and continue to do and connect with the people I connect with if there wasn't a path, a purpose, a lesson, a win, a progression and evolution in it. We just aren't that of a species. We just don't come to do nothing. Like, a plant is bursts out of its little seed to do its job of being part of the ecosystem, right? Like, even if it has like a really hard time getting through that soil, it's gonna, do its damn hardest to like bust free and be robust and be part of the ecosystem. And so I also look at that. Like, I am part of the global citizen ecosystem. And I feel like my part is pretty cool and pretty great. And I think that, or I hope I bring joy and love and, just grace into the world. And I mean, joy. Joy is really my main thing. I feel like people need to have more joy in their life. I definitely need to have more joy in their life. I was really shown that this week where I had to fight for my joy this week. Like, I had to fight my own self. I didn't fight anybody else. I had to fight myself to find joy. And it's just like another reminder of just you literally create everything. Everything, every experience comes directly from you. And yeah, those are just some really big thoughts and also small thoughts and also incomplete thoughts. And I am running out of time, so I'm not going to go any longer. But it was a day that really just triggered a whole bunch of mind and a whole bunch of explosions and a whole bunch of like, oh my gosh, this world, these people, these civilizations, these technologies, these knowings, these processes. It's just what? Like, will I ever know the answer? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if anybody fully knows the collection of it all. Uh, and maybe somebody does, but maybe you have to go to the other side to receive that, if that's even what gets received on the other side. Because really, we're just all part of the energy. Like, I do believe in like there's no death. We're just in this physical body, living this like physical experience, or we're on the other side, being part of the contributions and the energetics of everything. So, okay, cool. Thanks for joining. I hope you like this one. I'm going to remind you again, if there's a topic or something that you'd like to hear my thoughts on, please message me or put in the comments, and I'll make sure to address those suggestions. Okay, take care, everybody. Have a fantastic day, night, or afternoon. Bye.